FM, Irvine's only radio station.
Hello, this is Nima Golbai on KUCI 88.9 Irvine. Alright, so on the last couple episodes, we finished up our review of the TV show Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and in the past week, I saw a few movies, but I'm kind of debating which one to do. I saw 12 Monkeys for the first time, which is a sci-fi film, and I also saw Spider-Man 1 and 2, the Tobey Maguire ones, but I've seen Spider-Man 1 and 2. I don't know. I don't know which one to do. Ultimately, I want to do both of them. I think we're going to do Spider-Man today, and maybe I will rewatch 12 Monkeys, and then we'll do it perhaps on the next show or the one after that. But I want to actually announce that we're going to be moving next quarter, so next episode. I believe it's like Wednesday from 8 to 9 or something like that, or 8:30 to 9:30. I don't remember the exact time. But the important thing is I got an hour show, so we no longer need to rush and stress about talking. We can just take our time and do a good review like I used to do on my old show, Cine Show. But yeah, I think we're going to do Spider-Man. I don't know if we're going to have time to review. No, you know what? We will review both. I'll cut it down. So these movies, I was recommended these movies like about 5 years ago, I would say, and every time I watch them, they increase in my brain in terms of like my estimation of them. I always think they're better and better, and I think they're quickly becoming like a comfort film for me. And honestly, I don't know which one is better, Spider-Man 1 or 2. It's very difficult for me to say. I think Spider-Man 2 certainly cleans up lots of the flaws of the first one. I think it also has better dialogue writing, as well as better CGI, except for like the last scene where he's swinging through New York. That one is pretty awful. It almost looks like a video game, but on the other hand, there's some amazing CGI, like Doc Ock at times looks like perfectly real. But then like Spider-Man 1, I felt kind of had like a really interesting villain that is obviously Doc Ock is very interesting too, but in my opinion Green Goblin's just a bit better. And it sort of very compellingly sets up the series, but I guess let's go into the synopsis. I don't want to just ramble for 30 minutes. Okay, so we're going to have to do this quickly. So Peter Parker goes to school, high school in New York City. His parents are passed away, so he lives with his Uncle Ben and Aunt May. He has a crush on his next door neighbor, Mary Jane, who is one of the few classmates who is nice to him. Her boyfriend Flash and his buddies pick on him. Peter's only friend, Harry Osborn, is rich, good-looking, but is similarly an outcast. Harry, however, is somewhat jealous of the affection his father gives to Peter. So I really like this. I like the character of Harry. I of course love Norman Osborn, who's kind of like one of my favorite characters of all time, honestly. Essentially, like, Harry always lives in his father's shadow because he's like very rich, successful, smart, and Harry is not comparable in that way. Also, his father like kind of matches Peter more because they're both interested in science, so Harry feels inadequate. And I really like this because it sets up, the future villain arc and redemption that Harry goes on. So Norman is the head of a weapons contractor, Oscorp. He appreciates Peter's scientific aptitude and can barely conceal his desire that Peter was his own son. And Willem Dafoe is just simultaneously like very unsettling, but also quite hilarious. Just, I don't know. There's so many memes in this. Like, obviously, there's the "you know how much I sacrificed" meme. There's the "I'm somewhat of a scientist myself" meme. So many great memes out of this. So Peter's science class takes a field trip, and at this field trip, he's bit by this spider, basically. And then we also get a weapons test with the like Joint Chiefs of Staff and Oscorp, and then they're basically like, we're gonna cut your funding, your company's gonna go up in smoke unless you can get this weapon tested. And basically they're not ready for human testing of this like performance enhancing gas. So I really like this scene because it shows like Norman's like pretty heroic. Heroic and very ambitious. So he basically takes it on himself to do the human testing himself, and he basically turns into the Green Goblin, and he has superhuman strength and agility, but he's basically driven insane. And this starts the problem he has where he's essentially a good man who's going insane and losing his mind, and he's in conflict constantly with like the voice in his head of the Green Goblin. Then Peter wakes up from the spider bite at home, and he's like, he can see perfectly now. He's all strong. He's like not so puny. And let's see. Yeah, so there's a great scene at the school where he, like, Mary Jane's boyfriend tries to start a fight with him. Sorry, I have to kind of like sneeze, but it's not working. So sorry about that. Yeah, he gets into like a fist fight, but he like beats up the guy, and everyone's like, "Whoa, what happened to you, dude? You're all different now." And him and Mary Jane talk because they're neighbors in their backyard, and now he believes he needs to buy a car to impress her, so he needs $3,000 to buy this car. So he goes and does this amateur wrestling thing, and of course he wins easily because he's Spider-Man. And he tries to get the money from the dude running the show, and the guy's like, read the ad. It says you have to last 3 minutes. You beat him in 2. So he's basically like a scum dude who's like cheating and taking his money. And then the guy gets robbed, but Peter like lets the robber go. Then the robber goes and kills his uncle who's waiting in the car. Now this is a great scene. At the same time, the Green Goblin attacks the general who was going to pull their funding, Oscorp's funding, and the general is killed. So Peter is inspired by Ben's admonition to use his life for greater good. Great power comes great responsibility, and we're also introduced to J. Jonah Jameson, who's also another amazing addition to this film. Great actor, who's just so funny. And he basically puts out a call for photographers, so Peter uses this opportunity to take pictures of himself, and he sells the pictures. But essentially, Jameson's like trying to make Spider-Man into a villain, because he's like fake news, basically. Let's see here. Okay, Peter and Harry get a loft together and attend classes. Mary Jane works as a waitress. Um, she and Harry also become boyfriend and girlfriend. Harry apologizes to Peter, but points out that Peter was always too shy to make a move for himself. Peter struggles to hold down a job because of Spider-Man duties. And so essentially Norman is happy now, but then the board tries to sell the company because they're doing better, and they say they're going to fire him. So then essentially Norman kills the board of directors / Green Goblin kills the board of directors. And after this, there's another scene with Mary Jane with probably my favorite shot in the whole series. It's the upside down kiss with Spider-Man. I think it's just amazing. It's awesome. Although there's a shot before it where the rain on her face looks really weird. Like, it doesn't look like rain at all. But the actual shot of the kiss is really nice. Green Goblin lures Spider-Man into a trap and offers that they shall rule together. Spider-Man doesn't do this. And then during this meeting, where Spider-Man refuses, Goblin cuts his arm basically. And then later in Thanksgiving, where Norman, Harry, Mary Jane, and Peter and Aunt May are eating, there's an amazing scene where Norman basically figures out that the cut on Peter's arm is the same as the cut on Spider-Man, so he figures out who Spider-Man is, and he kidnaps, or no, he doesn't kidnap Aunt May, sorry, he like attacks her, and then he also kidnaps Mary Jane, and basically the film ends with him saving Mary Jane and killing the Green Goblin. But there's a amazing like kind of cliffhanger where, you know, he has his mask half torn off, and in the darkness he lays Harry Osborn on the couch, and then Harry walks in and he sees that his father is dead and that Spider-Man did it, but he can't make out whose face it was under the mask, or under the rip in the mask. And yeah, it's a really great movie. I know I didn't do the best job of explaining it because we're running out of time already, but I really like Spider-Man 1. It's like got flaws, but almost I kind of appreciate the flaws weirdly, because one of the flaws are the dialogue can be kind of corny, but I kind of like it at the same time. It's kind of cute. Like the dialogue between Mary Jane and Peter Parker, like it is corny and it's like kind of cheesy at times, but it's like it's a cute relationship, and I like smile when I see them talking to each other. It's very funny. Um, yeah, and obviously the CGI can be a pretty big problem at points, but it's really not something that makes me not enjoy the film. Sorry. Okay, Spider-Man 2, we gotta go fast. Spider-Man 2 is a great sequel. I think it cleans up the film, better CGI, better dialogue writing compared to the first one. I think the villain is also great in this one. I don't think he's as good as Green Goblin, but I really like Alfred Molina. I think he's an amazing actor. His name's Alfred, right? I'm not just saying that. Hold on. Let me make sure his name is Alfred. Yeah, Alfred Molina. He's a really great actor, and I really enjoyed his performance. And there was some amazing dialogue writing in between him and Peter, but we'll get to that. So the film's premise is like Spider-Man's life's falling apart. He can't like do anything. He can't do his job. He can't do anything at school at Columbia University. He just like really is. Oh, and he can't really like devote any time to Mary Jane. So essentially, yeah, he's just like trying to balance a bunch of things and being Spider-Man, and it's not working. And same time, J. Jonah Jameson denounces Spider-Man as a menace. Harry Osborn bears a hateful grudge against Spider-Man, and he's also like kind of hostile to Peter now. And he's like, "If you knew who Spider-Man was, would you tell me?" And Peter doesn't answer because Peter's the one taking his pictures supposedly. Mary Jane's now a successful Broadway actress. Um, yeah, I'm just going fast. So Harry's now the head of Oscorp, and he's sponsors the research of the brilliant nuclear scientist Otto Octavius, Peter's idol. Octavius, who dreams of perfecting fusion power. So fusion power is basically like free energy, where I can't remember exactly how it works, but I think you like collide like, I don't know, electrons or neutrons or something, and basically the end product is more energy that you put in. So it's like a net positive gain in energy. So it's the potential for unlimited power. To quote Palpatine. So yeah, they basically. Oh, okay. This doesn't even talk about one of the best scenes in the movie. That's literally, it's perfectly written. It's like one of the finest scenes of the movie, and like a fine scene of cinema in general. There's an amazing dialogue between Doc Ock, Peter Parker, and Doc Ock's wife, where essentially they talk about a bunch of stuff, but there's these great little, human moments where Doc Ock's like saying how he met his wife, and like he was studying physics, she was studying literature, and that like he still doesn't understand T.S. Eliot, and that T.S. Eliot is harder than physics. And he also tells Peter a bunch of good advice, like intelligence without hard work is irresponsible, and you have a duty to work hard, or else, it's for nothing. And he also says, like, Peter Parker, brilliant but lazy. And this comes up again at the end of the film, because it's kind of ironic, because he's the opposite of lazy, but you don't know why, or Doc Ock doesn't know why he's not able to meet his classes. I did a terrible job of explaining that, but just take my word, the dialogue is awesome in that scene. It's a fantastic scene in every way. Okay, so there's a great scene where the fusion experiment goes wrong. Doc Ock sort of goes crazy. The inhibitor chip is sort of destroyed, and then the machine takes control of his mind. Similar to Green Goblin, where he can't really control his his sorry his like actions. Although I think in his case it's a little more genuine than than Osborn's, because Osborn felt like more of a good guy. Doc Ock is certainly a good person, but he's also like very arrogant, way more than Osborn was. I felt like Osborn was just like a desperate man trying to save his like company and reputation and like everything he worked to build. Yeah, so the film goes on. There's some battles. There's a battle at a bank that's pretty good, but there's like this awful CGI scene where he pulls off the doors of a vault on a bank, and it looks so fake. Um, Overall, the CGI of Doc Ock is pretty awesome. So Peter is doing photography at J. Jonah Jameson's son's like engagement party or whatever, and he learns that the bride-to-be is Mary Jane, and this is shocking and, you know, heartbreaking for him. So he sort of tries to tell Mary Jane that he's a different person and that he's not busy anymore, because basically he's given up the Spider-Man mantle, unbeknownst to her. And he threw away the suit in the garbage, and a garbage man finds it, sells it to J. Jonah Jameson, who says, like, Spider-Man's done. And he also tells Aunt May about what happened with Uncle Ben's death, and he could have prevented it by stopping the robber from getting away. And this basically ends with Aunt May basically, I think she knows who Spider-Man is and strongly implies to him that Ben wanted you to be Spider-Man and use your powers for good. So he goes back to being Spider-Man. But around this same time, Octavius is trying to rebuild the fusion reactor. He needs tritium, so he goes to Harry to get it. Harry says, if you bring me Spider-Man alive so I can avenge my father, I will give you what you need. So there's a great scene very iconic, where there's a battle on a train, and then Spider-Man stops the train, and there's another iconic scene where he has his mask off, but the people don't tell him or don't reveal his identity to anybody. And then he's finally captured by Doc Ock, who brings him to Harry, and there's an amazing scene where Harry goes to kill Spider-Man, but first takes off his mask and sees it's his best friend, and he sort of collapses and is very traumatized by the notion that his father was killed by his best friend. But he's basically breaks out of Harry's captivity and goes to save MJ, stop the tritium reactor. I've skipped over some stuff while we're running out of time. Essentially, Doc Ock snaps out of it, and the suit is dying because he fell in the water. And one of my favorite lines is Doc Ock seeing that Peter Parker is... Sometimes I want to say Harry Potter instead of Peter Parker. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. He sees him and he says, Peter Parker, brilliant but lazy. He is sort of quoting himself from the beginning of the movie. And he realizes that was an ironic thing to say, because he's the opposite of lazy, of course. And he agrees to sacrifice himself and dunks the fusion reactor in the river, killing himself and saving the city. So he has a redemption arc. Great character. Mary Jane is saved. Mary Jane wants to be with Peter, but Peter's like, no, you can't do that. You gotta get married to the man you're engaged to. We don't want to put you in danger. So she goes, her husband or her fiance arrives at the scene, they hug, Peter watches in the distance, Spider-Man watches in the distance as Mary Jane looks at him while she's supposed to be hugging her husband. There's a final wedding scene, Mary Jane doesn't arrive. This is a beautiful and iconic scene where she runs to Peter's apartment, and basically they fall in love properly and they have a proper kiss. And this whole romance is it's so frustrating at times, but in a good way. I mean, you really want them to be together, but he's so noble that you're frustrated at him. But this is finally when the tension of the romance is broken and you get a very satisfying kiss. Before that, Harry uncovers in his house the Green Goblin lair, and this basically sets up that he'll be Green Goblin next movie. He'll go kill Spider-Man. Yeah, end of the movie, Mary Jane kisses Peter. We talked about that, and then Spider-Man goes swings through the city, and this is like the worst CGI of the whole movie. It's really awful. It looks like a video game, but worse. Anyway, we're running out of time once again. I gotta keep saying it. Uh, I'm obviously not gonna do the third film. I'll just say it really quickly. It's not as bad as people say. It's not the movie they should have made. I'll say this 100%. It's not what should have came after this film. I think that they could have had a great Spider-Man 3 that was less. I understand they wanted to go in a different direction, but it was just they bungled it on the comedy a bit. They didn't take the character serious enough. I think number 1 and 2 walk a perfect line of taking the movie and the character serious enough, but also having some fun. Like showing that Peter Parker is very clumsy while Spider-Man's really cool. Um, Number 3 kind of bungled it a bit, but it's not as bad as people say. I think the film could have been made exponentially greater just by focusing on the relationship between Harry and Peter, and giving Harry a really amazing redemption arc and like a death scene. Put some tragedy in there. It would have been a better film, but they kind of like mixed it up with a bunch of other stuff. And then just in general, they should have just carried on with Spider-Man 4. I was listening to like a George R. Martin interview, who's the guy that wrote Game of Thrones, and he was like talking about Spider-Man and like Marvel Comics, and he was saying that he doesn't like how they keep having to reboot the character, and I was agreeing with him. And he was like, yeah, Spider-Man 3 wasn't good, so just carry on with Spider-Man 4. Like, I agree with that. Like, why didn't they just carry on with Tobey Maguire for Spider-Man 4 and then, either end it at 4 or end it at 5? But I don't think you really have to reboot it just because you have one unpopular movie. Because I don't think Spider-Man 3 made people hate Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. I still haven't seen the Andrew Garfield ones, but that's a talk for another day. Maybe I'll watch it and we'll do a review on that. But it's been a good episode. Thank you for watching. That's been Nima Golubay on KUCI 88.9 Irvine. I'm out.